Welcome back. We now move on with the dailies. I have a copy of the Daily Nation just to run you through what has been captured on the front page this morning. As you expected, clash of visions and principles. Just highlighting some of the key areas that were discussed yesterday by the deputy presidential candidates in that debate that took place yesterday, joint media production. On one side here, they say they quoted the words of Rigathi Gachagua, where he said, "We are a country facing economic challenges and will have no time for unnecessary fights with Ruto. We have a huge task ahead of us and we will not indulge in petty fights." Elsewhere on the other side, Martha Karua has been quoted saying, or rather was quoted when she said, "I will serve with honesty and my track record speaks of that. There is nothing wrong with the architecture of the Constitution. The problem is with the behavior of some of our leaders." Now, both of them went on to explain their visions and their plans, as well as addressing some key issues that were posed to them in the form of questions. And before that, there was also the debate between Roots Party Deputy President candidate Justina, as well as Agano's running mate, that is Ruth. Both of them also pointing out the key areas and what they would focus on should they be the next deputy presidents, in line with supporting their principles of their particular parties. So that has been captured here. Elsewhere, the other story is just in regards to the World Athletic Championships. Leap of faith, Stanley Waithaka and Helen Obiri might have warmed Kenyans' hearts with the silver harvest in the men's and women's 10,000 meter races. But Faith Kipyegon's gold in the 1500 meters was the ultimate gold picking. Again, still a proud people in regards to the medals that we have received so far. Those are basically the stories that have been captured here on the front page of this particular daily. More stories have been captured in this daily, but we will be getting to them in just a bit. But first, Doreen.
TikTok center stage in Gachagua Karua face-off. Obviously, this is just in respect to the deputy presidential candidates debate that took place yesterday, and the two differed sharply, particularly on matters to do with integrity. Again, Chapter 6 of the Constitution coming to the fore, whereby the former Justice Minister described herself as an honest and hardworking Kenyan. That is Martha Karua, the former DO. Whose 200 million assets have been frozen by court over suspicion of being proceeds of graft, maintained he too was clean. So clearly issues to do with corruption extensively discussed in that second tier of the debate. As well, they also made public their wealth. That was yesterday. And again, when it comes to corruption, largely also how to deal with that. Clearly, again, also on the first tier, that pitted Roots deputy presidential candidate together with Agano deputy presidential candidate, that is Justina and Justina. The name eludes me, but that is okay. Justina and Ruth, yeah, Justina and Ruth. Again, also on that first year, matters to do with legalization of cannabis took center stage, and there's a lot of conversation surrounding that in respect to whether or not we should legalize that as a country, knowing fully well that in the African continent we have 10 countries who have legalized the use of cannabis, but this is respect to just commercial use that is for medicine as well as scientific purposes, and this took precedence after Lesotho legalized it in 2017 just for commercial purposes. But the question still remains, knowing fully well that that is illegal in our country, just how to navigate that. And away from that, to matters IBC right now, as the chairman said that parallel tallying center is going to taking place, and this is just for the purpose of transparency and accountability of electoral process. This actually is going to be taking place whereby presidential candidates and at least 6 organizations, including media houses and the Electoral Observer Group, that is ELOG, will be watching and also counting. That is what is just basically being termed as the parallel tallying center. And lastly, to the politics of UNGA. And what is happening thereafter, even as the state had announced that the prices are going to come down from 230 to 100 shillings, which is supposed to take place as from Monday. But that is not the case yet, seeing that the state, together with the maize millers, failed to come to an agreement. And the maize millers also said that because of the old stock that are already in supply on the market, then they cannot be able to just bring down the prices of maize flour. But again, this is just, the unga politics has brought forward with the Kenya Kwanza coalition, a good number of them terming it as a big joke. And this is in respect to the timing in which this is coming to the fore, knowing fully well that, again, 5 years back, we were also treated to the same, knowing that at that time the prices were about 142 to 143, but just a few weeks to the elections, that was brought down to about 90 shillings. So fast forward to 5 years later, the question that is being asked is that why then does this only just come few weeks to the election? And if at all this subsidy was in existence, then why has this prices been on an upward trend just for the past few months? Didn't the state was supposed to just ensure that we get the subsidies as then? Why is just this coming at this time? And if they talked about 4 weeks, then where does this leave you and I after August 9th, or slightly just after the elections? Regina.
Now, big clash of the deputies, and that is what this particular daily has chosen to go with as a big read. Just looking at what was happening yesterday at the choir grounds, where we had the deputy, or rather the running mates, debate there. 3 women, 1 man who faced Kenyans fired all the cylinders in their pitch for the deputy president job: a straight-shooting lawyer, a steely former administrator, an apologetic weed promoter, and a determined social contractor. The mosaic of their talents was in full display. Beyond their glossy words and lofty promises, the real work is cut out for them. That's quite a kicker there, if you ask me, from the scribe who took this and wrote it and put it on a splash there on the front page. So we're talking about none other than Rigathi Gachagua, who was representing Kenya Kwanza, Justina Omai, Roots Party, Ruth Moshero, Agano Party, and Azimio la Umoja, Martha Karua. We've invited your thoughts in regard to what was happening yesterday in the deputy, or rather in the deputies' debate. This is a run-up. We're expecting the presidential debate that is going to be taking place on the 26th of July. Yes. So what is your view? Do these debates actually hold sway to how you are going to vote come the August 9th polls? Well, I'm optimistic, and I'm going to remain an optimism. I'm an optimist, saying that, you know what, we need to exercise our civil right there, and civic right, so to speak, to cast our ballot there. So that is just but a sneak peek of the front page. It also goes further to highlight what is currently happening at Oregon with Kenya's first gold, and this took place, or rather was brought home by Faith Kipyegon. And also on the front page, the issue of funding. And if you were watching this particular debate, the question of where are the monies coming from to fund the campaign? Well, now Raila and Ruto splash millions on Facebook. This is in regard to a post that had been made. How many ads have been put out on Facebook and using the social media platform to push their various agendas? So there's quite an article there that details that. And on top of matters, funds and such, Kenya is set to get 28 billion shillings as a loan from IMF. But what are the conditions therein? Our business desk actually unpacked this, and it detailed that, IMF is also pushing the government to restructure KQ. That's the national carrier that has been on a loss-making spree over the last few years. From the courts now, Joey and Maribe differ over confession. Remember, this is a murder trial for business lady there who was supposedly murdered, or rather indicted over that. That is, Irongo lawyers described the statement sworn by Maribe as self-incriminating. Now, whereas Joey opposed the admission of the statement by Maribe a few days after she was arrested over the murder of Miss Kimani, the former journalist had no problem with her alleged confession being produced as an exhibit in the trial. we'll be keeping tabs on what is happening from the corridors of justice. Jane?
Now, before we get to close this segment, let me just run you through this particular story concerning IEBC based on the process that was happening yesterday, the second dry run for the technologies that will be used in this year's general elections. According to the IEBC, they outlined a four-step verification of the results from the polling stations before they are displayed to the national tallying centers. Now, during this particular second dry run that was happening yesterday, they went ahead to actually put them to the actual test, and they transmitted results from 580 polling stations, which are spread across the country, but mostly only results from stations within Nairobi were transmitted in real time. Results from 12 polling stations in Mandera County weren't transmitted because, according to this particular daily, the commission got information in the middle of simulation that the fiber optic systems had been interfered with in the process of transmitting. But nonetheless, the commission assured Kenyans that it had sealed all and possible loopholes that might interfere with the transmission of the results. And they further on went on to make this information public to Kenyans, that there are some other enhanced features that the commission said it will also include. This range from the ultraviolet light to check the security on the forms 34A that will be physically delivered to the national tallying centers. They contain some quick response codes, the QR codes that are specific to them. Each particular form has a QR code that is specific to it and also specific to the polling station that they are from. And according to the IEBC, the kits that will be used to transmit results have been configured to only transmit results from the specific polling station that they have been registered and attached to. They have been configured to not transmit any results from any other polling station, regardless of whether they are close to each other or not. So that is just a step in assuring Kenyans that they are making sure that all loopholes are sealed in this year's general elections. The dry run was designed to pick out the challenges in the transmission of these electronic copies, to just assure Kenyans that this electronic way that the commission intends to go is foolproof, and we can relax and rest easy with just under 20 days to the general elections. Elsewhere, in regards to the stories that had been featured here, yes, UDA and Azimio tussle over the Nyayo Stadium for the final rally. And ladies, just your thoughts in regards to this particular story, given campaigns are supposed to end at least 48 hours to polling time, and we can see these two particular camps fighting for the Nyayo National Stadium. Do you think it holds any significance, very briefly, as we get to close this segment, in where a party or rather a coalition holds their final rally? Doreen?
It's at the center of the city. I mean, you're looking at also good number of national events. They take place at the Nyayo Stadium. But then again, this is largely what IBC has kept commenting, and even the international observers, that it is time to ensure that we have peace. Because remember that these presidential candidates, they have weight even on their supporters. So if they can be pitting against each other on such grounds as who is supposed to have this space, then what message does it send to the supporters?
Regina, as you close this segment for us, looking at the fact that Nyayo Stadium is now on the spot, and according to this daily, actually Ruto's team had already paid the 1.5 million required to reserve the stadium.
Well, it's a matter of perception, yeah? And we look at the significance of Nyayo Stadium.
Yes.
However, in Kenya's history, other stadiums have also made history. Let's look back at, when there was a repeal in Section 2A of the Constitution in as far as multi-party democracy in the country is concerned. That took place at the Kasarani Stadium. So I tend to think it's all about a matter of perception. It shouldn't be an issue. We need to behave with decorum. And remember, after the August 9th polls, life continues.
Life does indeed continue. Yeah. Well, that brings us to a close of this segment. Thank you for staying with us this far. We do believe you're now best positioned to grab whichever copy best resonates with you. For now, we take a very quick breather. We will be back with more discussions that we have lined up for you. Do stay with us.